Hello, one Vader. Back at it again with some bird influenza updates. There's quite a few significant changes. Oops, sorry, I can hear myself. I have to turn that down. Alright, so the article here is from Reuters.com. Person with bird flu died in Mexico, World Health Organization says. There's quite... Turn this mic down a little bit. June 5th. A person with prior health complications who had contracted bird flu died in Mexico in April. In the source, also this person died in April of influenza bird flu. That's important to know. And the source of exposure to the virus was unknown, the World Health Organization said on Wednesday. WHO said the current risk of bird flu virus to the general population is low. The 59-year-old resident of the state of Mexico has been hospitalized in Mexico City and died on April 24th after developing fever, shortness of breath, diarrhea, nausea, and general discomfort, WHO said. Although the source of exposure to the virus is the case is currently not unknown, H5N1 viruses have been reported in the poultry in Mexico, WHO said in a statement. It was the first laboratory-confirmed human case of infection with influenza H5N1 virus globally, and the first avian H5 virus reported in a person in Mexico, according to the WHO. Scientists said the case is unrelated to the outbreak of H5N1 bird flu in the United States that has so far infected 3 dairy farm workers. Mexico's health ministry also said in a statement the source of infection had not been identified. They do not know how this person succumbed to the virus or even obtained the virus. The victim had no history of exposure to poultry or other animals, but had multiple underlying medical conditions and had been for 3 weeks for other reasons prior to the onset of acute symptoms, the WHO said. Mexico's health ministry said the person had chronic kidney disease and type 2 diabetes. That immediately puts a person at risk for more severe influenza, even with seasonal flu, said Andrew Peskov, an influenza expert at Johns Hopkins University. But how this individual got infected is a big question mark that at least this initial report doesn't really address thoroughly. In March, Mexico's government reported an outbreak of H5N1 as an isolated family unit in the country's western Oaxacan state. The government said the cases did not represent a risk to distant commercial farms nor to human health. After the April death, Mexican authorities confirmed the presence of the virus and reported the case to the WHO, the agency said. Mexico's health ministry said there was no evidence of person-to-person transmission in the case, and farms near the victim's home were monitored. Other people in contact with the person tested negative for bird flu, the health ministry and the WHO said. Bird flu had infected mammals such as seals, raccoons, bears, and cattle, primarily due to contact with infected birds. Scientists are on alert for changes in the virus that could signal it is adapting to spreading more easily among humans. The United States has reported 3 cases of H5N1 human infection after exposure to cows since an outbreak was detected in dairy cattle in March. 2 had symptoms of conjunctivitis, while the third also had respiratory symptoms. Although the death in Mexico was not the same strain as the one that's currently infecting cattle in the United States, they are both H5 avian viruses. Very important note. Petkovs said that since 1997, H5 viruses have continually shown a propensity to infect mammals more than any other avian influenza virus. It says, so it continues to ring the warning bell that we should be very vigilant about monitoring for these infections, because every spillover is an opportunity for the virus to try to accumulate these mutations that make it better infect humans. Australia reported its first human case of H5N1 infection in May, noting there were no signs of transmission. It is, however, found more poultry cases of H7 bird flu on farms in Victoria State. That is another article that we're going to look into. is the presence of H7 strain of viruses in Australia. Also testing for H5 strain. So this person was 59-year-old. I do not know if this is a man or a woman, but they seem to have extreme poor health before obtaining this virus. I don't want to say obtaining because that sounds materialistic. It's diagnosed. No, not diagnosed. Can't quite think of the word right now, but I think we'll think of the word later. Hopefully, I will think of the word later. Now let's see. This is in regards to the H7 bird flu statement on the last article that we've read here. Reuters, this is malaymail.com. H7 bird flu found on third poultry farm in Australia. Highly pathogenic avian influenza has been detected at a third poultry farm near Melbourne, but it's not the same strain that has spread globally and raised fears of human transmission, the Victoria state government said on Wednesday. Hundreds of thousands of birds have already been destroyed at the bird flu that was found at 2 Australian egg farms last month. The third farm is within a few kilometers, the first to report infection. Both had the same H7N3 strain of the virus, while the other farm had an H5N1 strain, the state government said. All 3 farms have been placed in quarantine with restrictions on movement in surrounding areas. The detection of avian influenza at this additional property is not unexpected as a result of ongoing surveillance activities within the restricted and control areas. The outbreak poses no risk to consumers of eggs and poultry products, the government said. Australia has seen 9 outbreaks of highly pathogenic avian influenza since 1976, all of which were contained and stamped out. In recent years, a different strain of bird flu, H5N1, has swept the globe, killing huge numbers of farmed and wild birds. It has also spread to tens of mammal species and through the U.S. cattle herd and infected 3 people in the United States and 1 in Australia. There's 1 H5N1 infection. So at least 2 human infections in Mexico, 3 human infections in the United States, and 1 human infection in Australia is what I'm seeing so far. Now for the main article, Out of Control. Why the discovery of H5N1 bird flu in mice is so alarming. The emergence of the strain in house mice brings the virus closer to human homes, experts warn. House mice have become the latest mammal to become infected with H5N1 bird flu, sparking fears that the almost omniscient pest could spread the virus to humans. 11 house mice in the state of New Mexico, where several herds of dairy cattle are infected with H5N1, tested positive for the avian influenza. New data released by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA, has shown. The discovery of the virus in mice is particularly alarming as it significantly raises the risk of human transmission and further spread, says experts. Mice live in unnervingly close proximity to humans. They scurry beneath floorboards, hide in cupboards, and roam our offices, larders, and restaurants. Their excreta, urine, droppings, and saliva can carry and transmit a wide variety of pathogens. This brings the virus closer to human homes. Dr. Rick Bright, a former head of the U.S. Biomedical Advanced Research and Developmental Authority, BARDA, told the Telegraph, it increases the risk of direct exposure and infection. While the USDA has not released any information about how the mice contracted the virus, scientists suspect the creatures lived on a farm and became infected after consuming unpasteurized milk from infected cattle. Again, unpasteurized milk is maximum H5N1 viral load. Do not consume unpasteurized milk, and do not give it to cats. Do not give it to dogs. Do not give it to animals, because right now, these animals that succumb to this H5N1 virus are blind. They have the virus in every organ, especially their eyes. It's a real mess. And the cats are just lapping up the milk that's left from the milking process. So what does that say about the people that are handling the milk? What of a risk they are at? Let's continue. A study was released a month ago documenting the death of cats from Texas, which are thought to have contracted the virus via the same route. U.S. authorities are warning consumers not to drink unpasteurized milk or other dairy products. Mice don't stay in one place and can act as efficient vectors for disease. Traveling in groups, they can climb through pipes, voids, and other tight spaces to move with ease from place to place, house to house. They thrive in groups of up to 2 dozen and practically live on top of each other, meaning virus can rapidly spread between them. House mice living near infected farms can spread H5N1 virus in residential areas, making containment of the outbreak significantly more challenging. This is out of control. This is Dr. Bright, Dr. Rick Bright, a former head of the U.S. Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, BARDA. That Dr. Bright. Okay. Let's see where. This is out of control. Need for immediate action. Rodents are infamous reservoirs of death and disease and are responsible for a number of epidemics. The bubonic plague, or Black Death, which killed off half of Europe in the 1300s, was transmitted via rats. Lassa fever, which causes around 5,000 in West Africa every year, is carried by multi-mammoth mice, which contaminate human food sources through urine and feces. We know mice can transmit pathogens like hantavirus, leptospirosis, and LCMV, explained Dr. Pratika Kupapali, a spokesperson for the Infectious Diseases Society of America and former WHO medical officer. I suspect this could happen with H5N1, but we'll need to be more study to understand this, she said. We need urgent, comprehensive testing to prevent a wider health crisis. The history of rodent-borne pandemics like the Black Death underscores the potential severity the H5N1 virus is spread into house mice and the need for immediate action. USDA has released limited information on how the mice became infected. Data uploaded on Tuesday revealed the creatures tested positive for H5N1 on May 8th, almost a month ago. Authorities have also not released any genetic sequence data, meaning there is no information on whether the virus has mutated to better spread between mammals, something Dr. Bright says is very concerning. H5N1 has been circulating for over 20 years, but in 2020 picked up speed, triggering an animal epidemic that has killed off tens of millions of mammals and birds, including foxes, seals, alpacas, polar bears, and mountain lions. In March, the virus was detected in U.S. cattle and since has spread to 71 dairy herds in 9 states. This should be updated. There's, I believe Iowa is the 10th state that tested positive for H5N1 in the cattle herd. This is picking up fast. 3 dairy workers at farms in Texas and Michigan have also become infected, sparking major fears over the virus's ability to jump to humans. Last month, the U.S. government announced $200 million of funding to try and get the virus to dairy cows under control, including support for dairy farms, testing, vaccine development, surveillance, and measures to ensure the safety of commercial milk. But experts don't think the move goes far enough. Sarah Gilbert, professor of vaccinology at the Jenner Institute and lead scientist on the Oxford COVID-19 jab, told the Telegraph on Tuesday the information coming out of the U.S. on H5N1 was concerning and urged vigilance. Producing conventional vaccines in the event of a pandemic could take 6 months or more, she said. and welcomed investment in mRNA and other more rapid vaccine technologies. Last week, it was reported that BARDA was set to make a multi-million-dollar investment in Moderna so that it can get its prototype H5N1 vaccine tested. Experts also stress the importance of better regulating the interaction between humans and nature. We need healthy wildlife for a healthy human population. Authorities are playing catch-up every time this virus jumps to a new species, but we need to start being proactive, not reactive, said Vincent Savolanian, professor of organismic biology at Imperial College London. There you go. So there are the H5N1 and H7 updates that I have been new. Been keeping tabs on a lot of this information lately, and discovery of it jumping into house mice is extremely concerning given the amount of disease they can travel with spread. Very concerning. Thank you for watching this so far. Hope this information is pertinent, because right now we're seeing a very elaborate rate of infection across the planet with H5N1. Polar bear died, infecting alpacas. Dolphins off the coast of Florida have died from H5N1. It's affecting mammals of all types, birds, it's affecting marine life. The cattle, especially, with just how diseased their milk is, and how even pasteurized milk, you find traces of the virus. The problem is, though, that unpasteurized milk doesn't go through any kind of treatment, like pasteurization, pretty much boiling the milk to get rid of all the pathogens. Even though that they are finding pieces of the virus is largely destroyed. That's good news for people that drink milk. It's bad news for anybody that buys unpasteurized milk or wants unpasteurized milk. I don't know why. Why is unpasteurized milk being drank by human adults? It's bizarre. Okay. I'm calm. You see, this is dogs, cats. I mean, house mice will travel around everywhere, and dogs and cats with a good sniffer, they'll be able to chemically pick up a lot of this virus. They're going to be able to go in the same areas. You don't know how many mice are actually around you at any given time. A lot, probably, I imagine. I've seen quite a bit of mice out in the wild, just field mice, house mice. But this is something different. Them saying that Black Death eradicated half of Europe in the 13th century. What if, within a month, this flicks a switch and suddenly it's capable of transmitting from person to person? We're going to be in another pandemic. We're going to have to ask people to wear masks again. It's coming back all over again. There are many species, like polar bears, that this disease is reaching, that you don't really understand the spread of aerosolized disease until you see creatures such as polar bears, which to me, polar bears are some of the most distant, faraway animals from the disease possible. But that's not the case anymore. Penguins, polar bears, dolphins succumbing to this disease. It's only a pandemic when it's human beings. But when it's all of the other biomass on the planet, it's not a pandemic yet. This should be a pandemic by now. With the rate of infection that we're seeing and the amount of species that we're seeing infect each other, and especially the the mortality rate for the cats that ingested raw unpasteurized milk at a dairy farm, they died horrible, slow, agonizing deaths. And from the people that I have seen that have been drinking raw unpasteurized milk, they get extremely ill. But that might not be from the H5N1 infection. It might be from just, them drinking raw milk for some reason. Why don't you just buy a cow if you love it so much? Unpasteurized milk, get out of here. Grown adults, unpasteurized milk, that your stomach is not going to handle that very well. But now it's a question of health. Drinking unpasteurized milk can lead to extreme, severe influenza symptoms. You know what really gets around the body? Milk. You put H5N1 in that and it gets everywhere in your body. This is alarming for many reasons. And this is one of many reasons why I keep track of this. And go live occasionally whenever there's a new report, like the alpacas, like the dolphin, like the polar bears, like the penguins. It's how many times do we have to be here in this position to like, okay, well, not coming here. We should be prepared for this. Better prepare for this. But knowing people that don't wash their hands, I think we're all screwed. Can't get people to wear a mask when they're sneezing uncontrollably and sick. Can't get people to take a vaccine that would literally save their fucking life. Am I supposed to believe that H5N1 could turn on its head tomorrow and suddenly we're finding thousands of people that are infected with this fucking thing? Would people take health seriously for fucking once? Would they wear a mask when they're sick and when other people are sick and not make a big fucking deal about it? This is happening. This pandemic of H5N1 is loose. It's out the gates. It's literally infecting everything else besides human fucking beings. And we're supposed to be, okay, well, as long as it's everything else, we'll be fine. No. It going through everything else is how it's getting to us. So it's not exactly pandemic, because again, it doesn't have human beings involved in the disease yet. Except you can count on two hands how many people have had this disease. And that's how many people that have tested positive. That's how many people actually went to the hospital. But influenza, you get vaccines for the most top strains. You can't even get people to do that, and they'd rather just be sick. Oh, I haven't had influenza for years. That's not the point. The point is that you don't get influenza and you're fine, and you pass it on to other people that have better or worse off immune systems than your better immune system. There are so many reasons why I'm keeping up with this because I regret not starting my channel in the early days of COVID. But I was working a lot then. Working for Wayne County, working for a road commission, filling potholes. It was work, dangerous work. It's one thing that has led me to believe that highways are some of the most dangerous places on the earth. Trying to stop traffic on a highway to do work, that was always a horrible challenge. But I digress. What will it take to get people, well, they're in a cult, so they can't see it. They're in a cult, so they can't see it. H5N1 is like wildfire. It is everywhere. It is all over the place in dairy cattle. And we're supposed to believe that we're going to be exempt from the infection. This is going to be the next pandemic very shortly. It is warming up. The disease is already being detected throughout the United States, and it is airborne. You do not have to rub up on a fucking cow to get this disease. It is in the air. It is aerosolized. And then what are we supposed to do? That's the problem. Without this becoming a pandemic, being labeled a pandemic already. Because we have to wait until it infects people instead of every other mammal on the fucking planet. It just reminds me so much influenza taking over. But its transmission is rapid. The spread is on cattle farms, dairy farms, and cattle, and cows. It is spreading too fast. Now, I don't understand why all the birds are always killed. You know, you hear 4 million birds killed, destroyed, because they detected influenza. Why aren't the cattle being slaughtered? I don't understand it. Do we have to destroy the pigs and birds? Probably, I guess. Some of those pigs that are diseased. Again, I'm like just getting off topic again. The vectors of attack that this virus has on us is intersecting in all of our shapes of life. We have house and field mice, check. Birds, check. Pigeons, everything. It is everything. It's not just birds. It's not just bird flu anymore. H5N1 is a global mammal infection. And if we think that this isn't going to break down that door into human beings, infecting humans by the hundreds of thousands, again, you'd have to be fucking stupid. Real stupid to think that this virus isn't going to come back on us. Because it already is. Infecting the animals that we live closest. Our whole way of life, culture, cows, milk, everything. This could ramp up severely and become a pandemic within months, weeks, days. Don't really know until it happens, but the World Health Organization should be declaring this a pandemic. If not already, let me check, make sure. Okay. So as soon as this spreads in human to human, it is a pandemic. I don't think we should wait until certain numbers are achieved before we declare it a pandemic. Not saying to lock down anything. No one is saying to quit your job. Nothing will change. What will change, though, is people being braced and ready for a wave of infection that is making its way into human life. In every instance, there's the birds around us, the cattle that we take milk out of, mice, cats. It doesn't seem like it has a limit with mammals. And it's probably as a matter of luck that more human beings haven't been infected, with only a handful testing positive. But it's still H5N1 present in a human being. So even if only 1,000 people test positive in the next year for this virus, it still should be considered a pandemic because it is wiping out the life around us. It's not just the lack of fast ice that is causing emperor penguins to drop in numbers rapidly, but influenza also infects them too, H5N1. It is, how much more do we need to see and know before we take this as seriously as we did with COVID? Because H5N1 is everywhere right now. It is not an exaggeration. It is not hyperbole to say that H5N1 is everywhere. It's on multiple continents, across multiple species, and the people that we do see infected are from the cattle, but the woman are not. I don't know if it was a man or woman. I don't remember. In Mexico City, that died from H5N1. They don't know how that person obtained the virus. Did they get sick? Alright. Again, I thank you for watching. Please, if you haven't already, like and subscribe. I will continue to monitor for updates regarding H5N1, influenza, and human beings, as well as what I've been doing with H5N1 is bringing you updates regarding the latest transmission. Bird flu. Argentina reported that bird flu wiped out over 90% of southern elephant seal pups in a catastrophic mass die-off. When do we declare this a pandemic? If it's present in every life form adjacent to human beings, we really should be careful in how we approach another pandemic. But with cultists being insane, if COVID was what's to come, and how little people will believe that this is happening even when their friends and family are fucking dying. We're on a clock. And the further in time we go, the less patience I've been having for people that don't want to save themselves. Talking about people that refuse vaccines, refuse medication. It's very alarming. in my own experiences, having had people in my life that were very, COVID's not real. It's terrifying to think about that we could be bracing for another pandemic again, and more than half of the people are going to not say it's not a big deal. See, we're not talking about people that say, oh, the flu, that's not a big deal. I'm talking about people that say, oh, the flu, that's not real. You can't fight against that. These people don't want to wash their hands. They don't wash their ass. They are disgusting. These are the people that are going to be putting everyone else at risk again. Talk about the vaccine again, talk about mRNA. You're going to get a lot of people that just chime in, that just won't shut the fuck up. This is a real crisis, because even if this doesn't, the transmission doesn't enter into a human society, it's still affecting everything else around our society that revolves around our society. You know, nature is one thing that we cannot live without. Nature is one thing that trees can't live without. Without pollinators, without bees, without birds, we die. It is that simple. I don't give a fuck that I don't have to show the math. We die if pollinators go away. Period. I have places in China that are literally pollinating by hand. Is this the future that we want? Is this the future that we want to leave generations after us? And they look back and see, like, these idiots could have just taken this breaking new vaccine and they could have averted so much of the pandemic. But the people that wouldn't take the medicine are the people that were at fault for spreading this further, for making the pandemic last longer. So the people that bitch about lockdowns that didn't last at all are the people that are prolonging disease from jumping from person to person. So no, I don't really have any hope that majority of humanity will want to be saved. You hear a lot of people talk about conspiracy theories, about global population getting to be too big, but I'm telling you, there doesn't have to be some agenda, some ultimate goal to reduce global population. It's going to happen regardless. Nobody has to pull a lever, but nobody behind a curtain. When you have millions of people that actively refuse violently on the idea of taking a vaccine, you probably, if you had experiences, you already know. Which, I mean, if you work retail, you've had more experiences than I can imagine already. Anybody that worked grocery stores or retail, any place where they can be shit on by a human being because of their role in the place. Oh, you're just a stalker. Shit like that. You have to talk to these people. They have to be there. I can see this happening already, you know. I can see the same people that survived the last pandemic not making it through the next, and that's chilling. Because these same people I know didn't take the vaccine of COVID until they got COVID, and even then they still wouldn't believe it. Have to test to see if they can get the vaccine and be fine, so the rest of the family can get it and be fine. There was already guinea pigs for that fucking process. It's a miracle that people that I know that refuse to get COVID vaccine are still here with us today. But it's these people that are going to prolong the infections by actually refusing the medication that will suppress the infection, that will make it sure that they don't get it and die. But since people don't want to believe doctors, don't want to believe anything, they want to believe fucking politicians. Okay. Same ones that got us in this fucking mess to begin with. Fuck Donald Trump. And all his supporters and followers. Is fucking bullshit. How many of them actively refuse medication, refuse vaccines? And I wasn't ready the last time because a lot of people were lost around the world. You know, it's not just the United States. There's countries outside your backyard, you know. There are people that aren't just like you, that don't just speak the same language as you, that don't just look like you. No matter how much you probably would want that. Tired of it. I can't imagine just all the abuse I know my doctors that I've been going to for years took due to this Okay, so I know I read this like 10 times. H5N2. H5N1 is the one that we're talking about when it comes to the United States. This could happen quick and happen fast. That was in April. A person in Mexico died from H5N1. I know, I'm sorry, H5N2. I kept saying that wrong afterwards. Sorry about that. But the person in Mexico City died of H5N2. What are we to do if almost every mammal on the planet is testing positive and dying from H5N1? We really should be dealing with the fact that this virus is going to be everywhere. Regardless if it has human transmission, it already is everywhere. This next stop is human beings. And it's such an alarming spread across the globe that to think that it's not aerosolized, it's not in the air, wear a mask. Because this is happening now. And in due time, we're going to see a wide reach of this virus. Wider than we probably ever thought before. Alright, thank you for watching. I believe I will call this stream here, as I have other things I would like to talk about. I'll be back with another stream that won't be as To me, terrifying. Because I see rats and mice with disease that we label as something that could do some serious damage to human society. What's next? What's left? What's left that has to be infected before human beings begin to panic? Besides human beings. It's literally mice, rats, and cows. And cats. And dogs. And gorillas. And alpacas. You just keep going down the list. Dolphins. H5N1 is poised to take over as the next pandemic. Alright. Thanks for watching. Please take care.